Right, let battle commence. Let's get on with it. Welcome to our channel. If you've not seen it before, I'll just get rid of that. Let's have a look. That would help. And I'm bring Brandon on. Let's have a look. So, hello, Brandon. Let's make us equal for a second. I'll pretend it's equal this. So, of course, Brendan, Sense for you. You may have seen me around, of course, and I'm Generation X. I'm 56 in a couple of days. And we've got Brandon here, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. He has his own channel as well. I'll be advertising that all the way through. Please subscribe there. And of course, he is representing Generation Z. And as you know, we will win this argument. We will be debating, as you can probably guess. I mean, is there anything else in town? We will debating the Space Babies. And of course, we'll be talking about the role of the Maestro in the Devil's Chord. So do join us. Do add some questions. We'll certainly kind of bite on them. So first of all, Cinnamon, hello, good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for bringing me on. I've been looking forward to doing this. Just quickly, I thought I'd say thank you for allowing me to use the stream on my channel. So again, if for anyone that's watching this on my side, of course, please do go over and watch go where the original source is. Go where the money is, kind of thing, and go check out Brandon, and of course, give him the big follow, because this is obviously his hard work, and I'm just sponging off it. Typical me.
How very day. This is Generation Z all over. You flakes. You honestly, and this is and this is what
in my mouth and everything.
So there's going to be no more politeness now. This is a debate, and of course we want to represent the different generations of Doctor Who fans. There may be agreements sometimes. We will stay friends, but the point is we will argue as well. So Space Babies, let's cut to the chase. I'm going to start with one, Cinnamon. How very dare you? How can you honestly say you enjoyed Space Babies? There was no plot. It was so lightweight. I mean, do you lot only have 2 brain cells? How can you... Come on, you want to be challenged by something more than Space Babies with bogies making the monster?
Well, that is true. I will say that. I liken this to, again, Delta and the Bandman, because I'm also a big fan of that, which you probably think, well, yeah, I'm not surprised. I don't know. I don't mind these lower stakes stories. I've seen a lot of thrown at this saying, oh, it's just no story. And yeah, that's true. I would agree. There's not much of a story here, not much of a big one or a deep one. This isn't Stephen King by any, stretch of the imagination, but I think it's a good tonally. I think it's silly, it's fun. I watched it with my partner, and I found myself laughing. I didn't get that. I think the nearly swearing jokes where getting cut off, I think get old. But but just everything about it, it's so different. Again, we were speaking just before we came on backstage about why. Again, would we have ever seen an episode like this in Star Trek? And probably not. Star Trek is a little bit more, again, much more militarized. It's a bit more establishment. It's a bit more, it's serious. Well, again, I say that as someone who's never watched it, in fairness. But I watched this and I see this as fun, and it was something different. It's because I thought this was going to be dark. And I went into this thinking, I went into this leaving with a bit of a smile on my face, thinking, "What the hell have I just watched?" But I don't know what I watched, but I liked it.
Well, let's include the stream. We've got Cybermat Strikes in Australia. Hello, Generation Y here. It's no Delta and the Bannermen. Archibald Lazarus, low stakes, can still be high quality like Kinder. I've grown on Kinder over the years. As a 10, 12, 13-year-old, I can't remember. I was struggling with that a little bit. I was a bit bored, but as I got older, I loved it. Divine and Dragon, nice to see you. A tonal shift in stories can work for variety, but there is no consistency even with the new canon. We're going to mention tone, actually, Divine and Dragon today, because I have an issue with that. But on this plot thing, I'm shocked that this Generation Z representative, Brandon, honestly, come on, you've seen some of the classics. I was saying to you, I've been watching Seeds of Doom. You know, a 6-parter, a solid 2 parts, then you get the 4 parts back in England. And it's gritty. It takes itself so seriously. There is humor, as in Tom Baker will make a joke as he's about to be ground in the compost machine, but it takes itself seriously. Have we all regressed? I mean, I know you're saying you were laughing at the jokes and that, and I could see where the jokes were, but would you prefer a Seeds of Doom type plot, or did you like the Space Babies?
Well, again, when you phrase a question like that, I think you're naturally going to
Sorry.
get that out response because it's a bit like it's a bit like how would you put it?
Well, it's a bit like saying Man U on
Middlesbrough. Nice fresh pepperoni pizza, or
Yeah.
a hot dog that's been in the fridge for maybe about a day or so. Well, it's probably a very terrible analogy, but yeah, I mean, again, I've been a record of saying that I love these dark stories. Some of my favorites are Midnight, Waters of Mars, Blink, Flesh and Stone, and Time of Angels, I think it is. Yep. Caves of Androzani, of course. But again, you get the other ones that I also love. The silly ones, again, Delta and the Bannerman. Not that I'm saying that's like this one, but again, something silly. I mean, we've got Green Babies. It's basically
Yes.
British Haven, Blue Dolphin Holidays meets Doctor Who. And it's something different. Like I said before, you wouldn't get something like this from Star Trek. And
is it
go ahead.
Is it just because it's a one-off fun one? But if they were doing it all the time, you'd be put off Doctor Who. I mean,
yes,
is that it?
That's the thing about it. It's the same with the Devil's Chord as well. If we had a singing musical episode every single week, I would begin to question: okay, are we starting to lose, what the show is about? I look at this as a one-off. Again, it's a lower stakes. Typically, Russell's stories, typically early in his seasons, are always a bit lower stakes. If you look at a lot of Russell's seasons, the stronger episodes that people tend to love are usually later. Of course, you get the odd one like Gridlock, which was like the 3rd one, but everyone loves the Doctor's dances and the Empty Child, which was later in the story. Bad Wolf, Parting of the Ways, later in the season.
What do you make of this? What do you make of this, Cinnamon? Hiya, MAFC. I think it's important to note this is the first back to basics episode since Praxius, maybe in 2020. Every other episode has had a returning villain or is special of some kind. I can see your point. Does that mean you approve of this, MAFC, that we're back to just a normal story? It's just my issue is, my issue is that's not a normal. I showed you the packet of Space Babies that Retrodoc sent me. Where did the story grab you, Cinnamon?
Well, again, because there is a lack of story, right? No, again, it's not a strong one. Again, this is no Stephen King by any means. But again, it's like that person. Like I can't pronounce the name. But it's like that individual just said there when he popped up on the message. It's a back to basics, and I agree. There's no there's no massive consequence to the story. There's nothing that you need to know going into it. There's nothing you need to know going out of it. And I get that because again, it just feels like we've got a lot of big storylines that have been interweaving with other ones. It's nice to go back to that formula of just. Just one episode. No, it's silly. It's just one episode kind of thing. Back to basics. It's just one adventure. Again, I like how the dynamic of them going to, him showing off to Ruby and saying, we're going to go to the past 5 million years and going on to a random place.
Well, can I ask you this? And by the way, the agreement is a thread that Cinnamon can ask me as well. It's not my show in that respect. He can ask me about why am I so grouchy about it. It's allowed. But just before we come to that, the thread is livening up on a few things. So George Pelliper, a strange choice for the opening episode, I think. And I'm going to come back to that. Divine in Dragon has said too much scatological humor, political pandering, blah, blah, blah. So we've got a few things to bite on. The thing I wanted to mention here is it clearly was reflecting aliens. There was a few scenes where you thought this is aliens, really, where Sigourney Weaver takes on the monster at the end. But unlike killing the monster in Aliens, he decides it's unique and I'm going to save it. Your snowflake generation love that sort of thing, apparently. No. But the thing is,
I just think that was rather funny, though. How I mean, there's two sides to that because it's great because you get, I think, is a really good Doctor moment. But he's putting his life on the line for for snot.
For a bogey. For a bogey.
Yeah. But I suppose in the Doctor's view, that's a life form. As silly as it is, it's a creature made of bogies. But it's a living thing. That's how I see it. It's a typical Doctor. At least he's being consistent, I suppose.
So the Doctor risks all these babies' lives, thinking, I must save this unique bogey. I mean, has anyone? Yeah. God, I mean, this is a very.
That's why I love it. Because it's just so stupid and it's just so daft. That for a one-off episode, you can have something like that. Again, if this is every week, I would agree with you. But again, you get these daft little moments like that.
Cinnamon, you said the words "one-off," and then we had Devil's Chord straight afterwards. If you please.
Wow, that was a whole different ball game. That was all different.
Well, yeah. So in today's hour, we are going to obviously be discussing it. Was the Space Babies where we really do disagree. So we want to bring that out and tease that out. And we both agree to not like Devil's Chord too much. So we thought it was more entertaining to do this one first. But we will talk about Jinkx, Monsoon and the Maestro in the second part of our debate today. So it's all there. So why couldn't they have gone down and just done an Aliens plot then? Doctor Who doing Aliens. They've got the money now. They've got the set design. They've got the special effects. We could have had, creeping up and down corridors, this horrible alien with acidic phlegm coming from it, not bogies or snot. This could have been dark. And so many of my Doctor Who friends are saying, okay, it's called Space Babies, a bit of a kind of B-movie title, but why can't those babies have turned feral? That they look cute, but they're not. A bit like Gremlins.
Yeah, that was. I think I might have had that idea going in. Would they do that? Would they dare? Show children, to be the villains? It would have been a cool concept, to deceive everyone. But again, I thought they were one of the best bits about it. I thought Captain Poppy was adorable. I think the dynamic, of just shooting, frightening the kids. I mean, I thought that was a funny scene. Divine in Dragon says Shooty was miscast. I don't know, because I think he's great. Again, and it's how I look at things is that two things can be true at once. I think you can also look at what an actor is saying, and I would say that I think Shooty's head is full of cotton wool, and I think he's been, frankly, a lot of what he's been saying recently is misguided and just plain silly. But again, on the flip side of it, can I watch this episode and not have that at the back of my mind eating away at me? Can I just sit there for an hour and actually enjoy his performance? And can he convince me? Yeah. Whereas with Jinkx, maybe not so much. She's a bit too in my face for that. But yeah, and George, I like Shooty's performance a lot. I think he brings something, and yeah, I think is he playing himself to a degree? I think every actor brings a little bit of himself.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah.
At one point, I wanted to again. We were spoken backstage about the Doctor and Ruby's relationship, and on our previous stream, I think Brendan mentioned about this relationship. So I was going to ask him a bit more in detail when we got on, because he made the point. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he made the point. And he's
taking me on now. Here we go.
Yeah, he made the point of saying like that of the Doctor and Ruby's relationship, that it felt like as if we weren't included, and I didn't quite understand that at first. And he's briefly delved into it a bit backstage, but I wanted to elaborate more on it because watching these episodes, I get the impression that, again, it's two schoolgirls giggling about in the hallways, running about, getting up to mischief kind of thing. I mean, you can see it in that bottom right corner. I mean, look at the expression on his face. He's kind of loving it. He's supposed to be scared, but he's loving it. Which, again, I don't know, bit of an issue there, but I don't know. Yeah, but yeah. So I watched these episodes, and the second one, especially when the dancing and giving it a jig, and again squealing like, oh, do my hair, oh, I want a perm, I want a beehive wig, or whatever it was. And it's, and then they're strutting about the TARDIS as the camera pans around them. And it doesn't feel like there's a much focus on them, on all the faces. It's almost like you stood there watching these two people walk past. So I guess I kind of get his point. But obviously I'll give him a chance to speak eventually.
Well,
I just think...
It's always about Generation Z, isn't it? I mean, honestly.
But yeah, I just wanted to sort of basically, inquire and, about your opinion on their relationship and how and why and how you think it's not quite as natural or maybe forced as some people are saying.
I'm finding, I think we're getting fed too much from the media and the interviews. So basically, in the Radio Times and various publications, it was saying we have great chemistry. Fine. I mean, I'm happy. I mean, it's a workplace as well, and they're actors and they get on. Good. But so, we were told this is going to be great chemistry. Now, I haven't watched Doctor Who since William Hartnell. I'm not that old, but I've seen it from John Pertwee. And, I've seen a lot of the Joe Grant, John Pertwee relationship, the Sarah Jane and Tom Baker. There's a lot of relationships where they had good chemistry, Ace and Sylvester. So, yeah, whatever. We've got good chemistry. Well done. And then the dialogue seems to dive down into that. Whereas if, like I said, I've been watching Seeds of Doom Part 4 at the moment. Sarah Jane and the Fourth Doctor just get on with it. They've got a good relationship, clearly, but they don't have to have a minute by saying, gosh, we've got a good relationship, haven't we? When the Doctor in Seeds of Doom Part 4 jumps through the skylight to save her from the pod that's about to open and kill her, you can see there how scared he is and how much she means to him. But they don't have a line like nowadays. You Gen Zers love all this. It's in Star Trek Discovery as well. I really love you. Do you know that moment when I saw the crinoid pod opening, I felt I was going to lose you. I can't cope. That's how it feels. And so when I was watching Space Babies and Devil's Chord, I felt as though it was like, get a room. You're having a good laugh. It's a bit like you go out on a night with a group of people and some of your friends really get on and you're one of the outsiders and they're all laughing their heads off and that, and you feel as though you're just watching. And as a viewer, I felt as though I was just watching this chemistry. And I was thinking, get on with the plot. Let the action show how much you love each other or how much you mean to each other. But away, get on with the story. That's what I meant.
Yeah. And it's probably an interesting point because I think Matt Pott, who was on Type 40 yesterday, likened it as two companions of just stolen TARDIS rather than a Doctor and a companion. It feels more, he says that it feels more like a companion and a companion. So it's probably a little bit into what you're saying.
Yes, yes.
In regards to that scene, though, of him going out of his way to save her, I think, I would say the ship in the Christmas episode where he pulls down the ship to save her. Again, I feel people who I stream with had a few issues with that stream. They say, oh, why is the Doctor just kills the Goblin King without even giving it a chance? And I argued, well, he didn't really have any much time to think. They were about to eat the baby. It was there or nothing. You give him a chance before when they left and then they came back. So he said, oh, you come back, have you? I'll give you a chance. But now as the 10th Doctor said once, no second chances, which he said that and then never really stuck actually afterwards. But yeah. So I tell you what, down. I would have thought that was him having that kind of moment.
Do you know what? Do you know what, Cinnamon? As Cybermat Strikes is saying, wouldn't it be easier to crash the station down to the planet below rather than farting across space to get the weak joke as if we're a substandard red dwarf? The thing here is, if you were going to do that refugees argument, since RTD loves to, he could have done the refugees bit. And he said you have to go to that country on the shoreline. Now, I don't like him ramming politics heavily like that into it. However, if he was going to do it, He could have done it better. This is where he gets it all wrong. And I think Cybermat Strikes has a point. If you had that they had to crash, a bit like the dinghies in the English Channel, to be honest, he'd make a more of a sympathetic point that these babies have had to almost crash the ship to actually get there. I might be talking to myself. That might be good. This is what Generation X really wants: is that we have a room of people who. Are you there?
Yeah, it was just glitching a bit.
Oh,
for me,
you
I
see,
think it was
I've
connecting. I'm
right.
back. I think I'm all right now.
Okay. I was really liking it. I like it when Generation Z just listen to me. Or storm off or cancel me. No,
Yeah,
no,
I ran away.
to
I
crash
had
the
to go to
ship.
my safe space. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
No, I think he could have made a better point there. You see, this is what I mean. I'm not seeing good evidence of his writing anymore. However, go on then. So another one for you. We've mentioned the plot. We've mentioned the tone. Oh yes, tonal shift. I know you said you laughed, and yeah, I could see where there were laughs. I saw no seriousness really. I saw a kind of a moment you could have said was almost tension. Do you know? I think I thought was the best bit out of the whole thing was actually his acting at that one moment when the bogey monster's about to be sucked out of the spaceship. And when he said, I mean, I thought it was a bit tree, the dialogue, but I just thought the acting and the music and that moment was he felt something. And I thought, that's the first bit of proper Doctor Who emotion I've ever seen in this episode so far. It's all been blah, 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 blah. Doctor Who does the kindergarten class. I mean, really, honestly. So the tonal shifts for me, as I think it was Divine and Dragon, I hope I didn't get it wrong. It was all over the shop. I was thinking, look, Seeds of Doom, since I'm watching it at the moment, or Pyramids of Mars, or, I could go through on Davison's and the lot. Ghostlight, they'll have a certain tone, and that's it. And RTD used to say in his first day, remember, he used to say, we have a tonal meeting. We've decided that Aliens of London's going to be very... we've decided that Midnight's going to be very bleak. They clearly don't have tonal meetings anymore, because I don't know about you, Mr. Generation Z, but I thought that tone was all over. It was inconsistent. It was like, should I laugh? Should I cry? Should I give up? What did you think?
I don't know. I thought it was, again, for about 90% of it, I thought it was fairly consistent. It was only really, I suppose, at the end where, you've got this big snot monster hanging out the airlock, and then he's peering at it through the window. And then again, a bit reminiscent of RTD Long Gone, where we've had the Doctor sort of stare at something, and then you get again in Waters of Mars, you've got him reciting in his head, "On the last, the Time Lords," over and over. I suppose then it was one of the biggest stakes where they need characterization meetings. Well, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think there's more of a tonal shift in the second one, really, because the second one gets dark. Again, I didn't expect it to be as dark as it was, and then you go from that, and then you have a big Glee musical, High School Musical at the end. But yeah, I just think another big point that I think is important. These weren't very woke, and I know that's sacrilegious, and I know that's going to rip the comments in half, but I really didn't think it was woke. And yeah, okay, people are going to mention about the allegory and the abortion thing. I mean, apart from one bit where they even subtly mentioned it, and even then it was more about life and preserving life rather than just evil, Republicans or whatever. Again, when when they meet Nanny, when they first meet Nanny, and then she briefly explains how they made it illegal to stop the baby farm making babies. Apart from that, they get on with it, and like even again, the only reason I knew about even that allegory in the first place is because I saw an article beforehand, and we were like, oh, we were going to it. It was at the back of our minds. I knew it. That's how I knew it. If I hadn't seen that article and just watched the episode, I wouldn't have got that message. I probably would have just completely blanked over it. When I saw it, I did think, so that's the bit where it's the messaging, but only because I was able to link it with what I saw beforehand because of what I was told. So, and again, apart from that, it was just a simple episode romp. I thought the second one, if anything, was a little bit more with the whole them and stuff, even with refugees and stuff in the episode. Again, at what point are we going to get where we can't even mention the word refugee without someone going, but the boat's down in Dover, or you can't mention that, I get it. I don't think these will work at all. Is the messaging there technically? Well, yes, but I mean,
The thing it
there's
seems to
always
me
been a
is,
little bit of messaging. We always want.
I can grant you saying I'll allow Generation Z to say that there wasn't much plot, but it was a bit of fun for one story. But the thing is, it seemed to me it was just a platform for other points, other things to say, rather than think, hold on a minute, let's write a brilliant launch story for this new season, which is short. You need to hit the ground running. Church on Ruby Road was the introduction. Then we get another, which is the introduction of them both doing not much really, and who cares? And if you never watch Space Babies again, it wouldn't change your Doctor Who understanding. Then you get the Devil's Chord, where you just basically take this musical tangent into fantasy La La Land with a bit of Glee and High School Musical mixed in. I preferred Grease. Honestly, it's just. I'm shocked that RTD has thought God, every Doctor Who fan would love to be RTD at the moment. You have the money, you have the streaming power of Disney, and you write Space Babies and Devil's Chord to sell Doctor Who. Wow, is he scared of scaring? You're right. Are we different here with our generations? I think Doctor Who's main job is to scare. End of. Scare. Get you behind the sofa. That was the famous phrase. It scare first, laugh second. And I have to say, when I watch all the old Doctor Who's, it wasn't a comedy. So I know you said you laughed, but why does RTD think your generation in particular want laughs all the bloody time?
I would say I would value more entertainment than being scared. I think being scared is kind of part and parcel. When we all, it's all right to have my strikes. I got what you meant. But yeah, again, this show started out as a historical show, and then when they realised that they clocked that the people were actually more interested in the more futuristic sci-fi elements of it, that's when they delved more into it. And as we saw, gradually, sort of the Troughton era, well, it practically stopped after the Highlanders. We never really got another one for a while, if at all, really. But yeah, I would value entertainment because that's what it's there for. It's a TV show. It's why we watch it. We're there to be entertained. We're there to be told a good story, even when sometimes isn't always a big one. Again, being scared, that's definitely a very big, massive part of Doctor Who. Absolutely, we all know the trope of hiding behind the sofa, unless your sofa was pushed up against the wall and you had nowhere to run. But yeah, I would value entertainment more than fear factor.
Yeah. And I would say this, MAFC, I agree. This is why I think we said it in our Space Baby stream and actually Devil's Chord too. I feel awful because, as you know, we judge by 3 criteria, and the second one is production values. And I'm gutted for when you see Unleashed. I am gutted for those people. I remember that woman who was she was the artist and she was doing all the baby drawings on the ship. And she said she'd done a 3-year degree. Then she was doing.
She wasted her money. She said she spent a lot of money on this degree and that degree, and she spent this amount. I mean, she spent a lot.
9,000 a year. Yeah.
Children, I thought, I thought it annoyed me that actually, more not just because of jealousy or envy, but I just thought like wow, that's a lot of money well wasted. I mean, I suppose if I do any job on Doctor Who, if my job wasn't Doctor Who, if I was asked if Russell was to ever approach me for whatever reason, hey Brandon, do you want to sit there doing kids' drawings on a wall for a Doctor Who episode? Yeah, I'll do it.
But that's what I mean. The love put into their work. And so I totally agree with you, MAFC. This is where I have a problem, which is all this money, all this high production values. You can smell the budget. Honestly, just write 2 half-decent stories. And I think this would absolutely go global. And I mean, it would be a global smash. And I think if you'd got the kids freaked out, a bit Sixth Sense, or go proper Doctor Who meets aliens. Oh my God. Kids want to be scared. Come on, I've taught for 30 years. Come on, you know this. Kids like the thrill. They're like that. Sometimes when I used to be asking my dad, can I stay up a bit later? And it was Hawaii 5 or something. And he said, whoa. And it was always a bit dodgy. Armchair thriller we used to have. And every time after that, you had nightmares. A kid likes to have that extra little push. And of course, I'm an English teacher. They say the art of imagination is you make the kid imagine these situations, they really think about it, and then they come back. And I just think you've given two twee stories. If you like Glee or like Devil's Card, but I agree with you, MAFC, the direction. Oh, it was a masterclass. It's just a shame that they've been misdirected. And I really do call out RTD if he'd done two decent stories, or maybe start with a nice two-parter where you get a cliffhanger where, the alien's about to gobble up somebody, do something, major peril, get everybody in the world talking about Doctor Who. That's what I thought a Doctor Who fan who's looking after the program would do. I mean, this is the other thing, Cinnamon. And everybody ask us questions because honestly, we can go anywhere with the generational thing. But the one thing I'm always intrigued by with Generation Z, and I know obviously he's not all of Generation Z, but Cinnamon, wouldn't you prefer episodic Doctor Who stories than just one-offs?
Again, I think this ties into the question about the generational thing, because it's my exposure of growing up with Doctor Who will be massively different to yours. But at one point, you would have to have waited, well, on average, again, when they got to sort of consist, when classic stories, when they finally got to around 4 parts, which was the average length. In the 60s, it was a bit up and down. You'd go high as 12 and then maybe low as 3 sometimes. But throughout the 70s and 80s, it sort of settled around 4 parts. Now, each part was 25 minutes long. And in order to watch a full story, every Saturday, you'd have to wait 4 weeks. You'd have to wait as a child. Let's say as a child, as any age really, 4 weeks, and you'd only have to watch 25 minutes. Now that, to me, if I was to go back, that would be so alien to me, and that would be so. I think this ties into the question about patience and how Gen Z, and I mean, thankfully, I'm a fairly patient person. I'm not one of these people, thankfully, who as long as the keys aren't jangled to me for 2 seconds, I'm not. I thankfully I've got an attention span. I mean, there are goldfish out there that have got a longer attention span than some people of my age bracket. So thankfully, I can watch something for more than a couple of hours. But yeah, I think that ties into it because that's a good point. Because again, I grew up it more episodically, more. I mean, we've always had seasons, but more serious. To the format of 45 minutes per episode on average per week, half an hour, to an hour, just short of an hour. So again, that comes into it because all I've ever known was, an episode every Saturday, then Sunday that was an hour or just short of an hour long. And typically for me, there was one story, one episode, and then of course the one-off that you would get, the 2-parter. That was the format, wasn't it? For every season, from series 1, from 2005 onwards, from series 1 to series 6, wasn't it? There was at least, series 5, I think, there was at least 3 2-parters. They'd get one, episode 4 and 5 was usually a 2-parter, 7 or 8, and then the finale. There was usually always 3 2-parters, and then the rest would be it. Again, so now, and again, I suppose that then question comes into it. Does that affect the quality of the writing? Because whereas before you would get, I mean, thankfully now, of course, you can see it here. I've got all the DVDs, Blu-rays there, and all the classic DVDs are all on the other shelf. So for me, if I want to watch a story, I've got all 4 parts there anyway. So the point, really, what I was saying earlier, but now it doesn't really matter anymore because I don't have to limit myself to watch 1 part every week. I mean, I could. But yeah.
Well, let's. There's a few questions here because I asked the thread if they've got questions because we're talking about Space Babies and Devil's Card. We're going to talk about the Maestro in a minute, but fair dues. It's lovely to have you join us in our debut show. We're going to do Wednesdays, I hope, so time. Every stream in the world has talked about the episodes. Our channel has done it in detail. Both of them. Please have a look if you haven't seen them. But just generally to see what the debate difference is, because I sometimes wonder, does RTD think everybody in Cinnamon's generation are absolutely thick ass? I mean, honestly, does he really think? And it's Ron, as you know. But we've had some questions. So MAFC, for example, and don't worry, Archibald Lazarus is. We were asked if Shooty is miscast. I know it was earlier, and we got your opinion, Cinnamon, that is not. I don't think he's miscast. I think, as usual, it's a bit like Jodie Whittaker. I'm not opening that whole debate up, but what I'm saying is Jodie Whittaker, we don't know how good she could have been because the writing for her was not very good. So basically...
Again, how about this then? Again, I watched in Type 40 last night. Again, they brought this point up. Was he miscast? or is he a bad fit for the character? Because conventionally, Christopher Eccleston's take on the Doctor is very different to the past. And they brought the point again. I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember exactly what was said, but the point was Eccleston a bad fit for the character because he played him differently. Now I think that probably, and of course, eventually, I think tonally, was Russell writing for Christopher Eccleston? I don't think he was. I don't think he was in this. I think he was obviously, but in the sense of with Moffat and Matt Smith, you knew he was writing for Matt Smith. Whereas with Christopher, it felt different. In one minute, he was cracking jokes. Maybe that was a coping mechanism. Then the next minute, he's brooding and being traumatized by the Time War. And again, with Tennant, I think he's more consistent throughout. I think it took Eccleston a good 3 episodes to really get a good grip. I would say it took Eccleston up until The Empty Child and the Doctor that story until he finally got a good grip on the character. But by that point, it was right to the end. And unfortunately, it was too late.
He was being, but we know there's a story there that was he being helped by last minute redrafts and everything. He was trying to work out what is his Doctor, so that there's so many stories there. Now there's a couple of questions I can join together.
Miscast means a bad fit for the character, not necessarily, because miscast is a total. That is a total. If you miscast, you're completely wrong for the role. Whereas Eccleston, was he a bad fit for the character? Probably conventionally, yes. It was a massive departure of what the character was before, right down to the costume. But he made it work, and I think Duty personally, is he? Would you consider him a bad fit for the character? Probably, but for some reason, he makes it work. At least for me, it does. I wouldn't say he's miscast, but I wouldn't say he's miscast, but he's not a typical fit for the character. I would say it's something different. Well, in my opinion,
Divine Dragon says, he's not an alpha personality; he's a beta one. I mean, the jury's out. It's about time RTD, if he's cast him and thought he was the most amazing audition ever, give him some fantastic dialogue. And of course, the promise now is that Stephen Moffat's going to bail them out with Boom by making Ncuti stand on one spot for most of the episode on the landmine, and therefore it's going to task. And it is going to be interesting because me and Rachel and now when we've been on the panel, we have both. She's the actress, of course. We've both said that I actually think Ncuti looks better and stronger as a Doctor when he's told to slow down. And like when he had the little chat in the giggle with David Tennant's Doctor, and for a moment you saw the power of him. And I can't remember, there was a moment either in Space Babies or Devil's Chord when he slowed down. And I think, so that again, there's potential there possibly. But there were a couple of things in the thread. Divine and Dragon said the extended lengths can help. If the writing's better, if the writing is poor, it creates more problems. Because we were asked by MAFC, do you think that the extended episode lengths would fix some plot and character moments? And then before you come in, Cinnamon, I was going to join that too, down here. Where was it again? If I can find it quickly. It was all to do with all the different clues we're getting, like Susan Twist and Susan Twist, is Susan coming back, the Ruby Sunday mystery, Mrs. Flood, and the politics. And I think there's two things here, and I'll quickly say my bit, Cinnamon. Yeah, I can see MAFC. How do you feel that RTD has handled all the arcs? This is what I mean. We've had Space Babies and Devil's Chord, and he's basically larking around and he's riffing on Doctor Who a little bit with Disney money. And I would like an extended episode, as in when the Eurovision started, that was 1 hour, 40 minutes of Doctor Who we'd had, which is basically a 4-parter, isn't it, really?
That's my point earlier. That we're going, if I was to watch one of the classic stories, about obviously now, the benefit of having them all on media now, where you couldn't before, you'd have to just read the books if you want to relive the story again. Now, if you watch them all in one go, again, it'd be about an hour and 30 minutes, or close to about movie length, really. That's much more time to flesh out the story than I would say 46 minutes. But again, I suppose the regulations on how much babies can be used. But your point, yeah.
But I'll be interested because I can see MAFC and Divine and Dragon and Archibald Lazarus are discussing this, and I'm struggling. It's an 8-part series, and is RTD either is he more under pressure than we think in the fact that he thinks he's really got to do loads of things, or has he made his own problem, which is He's got the Mrs. Flood thing, the Susan Twist arc, the Ruby Sunday arc. We're going to get the arc about something to do with the Doctor's past. And he's got his political messaging. And we've now had 25% of this series, and nobody knows anything. He's relying on indulgence from fans to just kind of hang on. I mean, for example, MAFC, you are intrigued by Susan Twist cameos. I am, as a Doctor Who fan, of course I am, but I've been tricked before with the Bad Wolf thing and everything. That does it pay off in the end? I wouldn't mind the Susan Twist cameo just being the arc for the season, but we've got Mrs. Flood as well, who's in for 2 seasons so far. We've got, is Susan coming back? We've got who is Ruby Sunday? It's I think if for 8 episodes, and 2 of them have now gone, so in the 6 episodes left, he's asking himself to do an awful lot, and at the moment, the quality of his writing is not there. This is kind of I've said it twice in panels now. We have an emotional moment, or like a stepping stone. Then we have a lot of drift, politics, blah, blah. Then we have another moment. But he's not joining the story together. So my answer before as Cinnamon comes in is, I don't think all these arcs are going to pay off, sadly, because I actually think he's demanding too much of himself. And I actually think he's boring the audience in a way, because we're going, what? I can imagine my mum and dad watching this going, why? Just give me a good story. What do you think, Cinnamon? Is this piquing your interest?
Yeah, I can't. I know the whole point is to disagree, but I really can't. There, you are right. As much judging these particular episode on its own, as much as I liked it, again on the flip side of that, you are right. It's a shorter episode now, or shorter season. We've dropped down from 13. Well, roughly, 13 to 12 sometimes, down to 10, down to 8, 9 if you include the Christmas special. But again, I think even waiting, if this had come out so soon after Church and Ruby Road, I think it probably would have helped. Because I think the gap was just too long. The dust had settled, and a lot has been said in that time. So unfortunately, a lot of that, I think that has changed people's view on it. But yeah, to your point, I think. Yeah, because it kind of, I think it is putting pressure on himself, because it requires more tightly knitted. There's less room for plot holes when you've got such a do it in. And again, my point was, when looking at the episode length, okay, you got Space Babies, which is 46 minutes. Okay, that's a bit shorter than I expected. I thought maybe an hour, up close to an hour, maybe 46 minutes. That's about the same sort of time we used to get back on the old Russell run. And then again with Devil's Chord, that was only a couple of minutes, a little bit longer. Again, a bit shorter episode.
And I used to.
So again,
as a fan, I used to hate. I used to hate 2-parters. I mean, that's the length of a 2-parter. The only 2-parters I've really liked are Sontaran Experiment. The Awakening didn't do it for me. Black Orchid didn't do it for me. So, I'm aware with all these, we're Doctor Who fans. We know that 50 minutes is roughly a 2-parter. So, which 2-parters did I like? So it's interesting.
So 2-parter is not really a 4-parter, because you've got 245 minutes, wouldn't you? I guess 25 minutes.
Yeah. I was going to ask you another question about Space Babies, Devil's Chord, and get our debate going again and see what the thread thinks. I've made it. It's interesting what MAFC says about. It may be unpopular, but Church on Ruby Road, Space Babies, and Devil's Chord is a better opening than Rose, End of the World, and Unquiet Dead.
Ooh, fair enough. But I wouldn't quite go there myself.
I like the Dickens one. The End of the World looks weaker now because he's just done it in Space Babies. The same picture, the same looking out to the world, and he's on a repeat cycle. So he's kind of killing some of his older work. Although I think End of the World had more about it. I loved those lines with the mocks of Balhoun and spitting, and I can do silly jokes. And I love the tree where she says, "I give you air," and very good stuff. And you had a Doctor Who moment in it. When he had to go past all the fans, and he had to concentrate as if he had to slow down time because he's a Time Lord. Because he is a Time Lord. He's not just adopted by the time. How come he acts like a Time Lord, but he's not a Time Lord? This is silly, RTD. Just don't go there. If he's adopted, that means he can't be them. Right. So, I
Yeah,
think
they're
that
trying to go for. They're trying to do all this magical, isn't it wonderful? Like, oh, like they've adopted me, so I really am part of it. That's what they're trying to go with. Like, and I think he said in an interview that like how adopted kids will just call their adopted parents just mum or dad or mum or whatever,
yeah.
because that's their mum. That's all they've ever known. So I get that's the kind of angle they're going with it. But I wish I will say though, it's so it's, again, as much as I like the episodes, it's everything else outside that is a problem with it, and I'm not oblivious to that. I want to make that known. Just because I like these two episodes doesn't mean that I'm now blinkered or two faced
Yeah.
or mean that I completely. Just because I like Shooty as a Doctor means that I completely I worship the ground
Well,
he walks on. I love everything he says in the media because again
Cinnamon, if I
the bit
ask you
about
this question, right? If I ask you this
yeah
question, Cinnamon, because I know where I stand, and you where, as a classic fan, you know where I stand on this. This messing with the TARDIS now skateboards. The TARDIS has been sledgehammered into two. The TARDIS now burps. The TARDIS now joins in on a musical beat. The TARDIS can be rebooted, burnt to pieces, changed by a sonic screwdriver rehash. It makes noises like R2D2 sometimes. I really resent this beautiful TARDIS from Totter's Lane Scrapyard, really, where it all began. And the sound effects, it was an alien spaceship being treated and landing like a shuttle in Star Trek. Is this buying into your generation's likes? I hate what they're doing to the TARDIS.
well yeah again I'm trying not to agree too much today, but we saw it in the trailer when we all reviewed it, and we saw how, and I said, didn't I, that the I can't remember. I think it's the one where he's wearing a leather jacket. I think it'll be Button Bubble. I imagine the one that's in Unit Tower, and he flies the TARDIS in like it's a Rolls Royce coming up the driveway, getting out like, yeah, this is my ride. Give me the loving and all that. And again, that another element of that, the Doctor's language, all the honey and babes.
Yeah.
Again, as someone who's seen all of Doctor Who that I could physically see, and even I've seen all of Doctor Who, even the missing stories. I've listened to them. I've listened to Marco Polo, so I've witnessed or experienced every Doctor Who story so far. And again, I can totally see why for an older fan who grew up again for years watching a Pertwee. Again, I know you started with Pertwee, and you experienced all 7 years of Tom Baker. Whereas I experienced that in about less than a month, because when I eventually did buy all the DVDs, he's got 41 stories. I saw them in about 41 days, give or take. That's quite. I mean, that's another thing in itself. 7 years compressed it for one in 41 months, or just over a month. Crazy, really.
Well, thank you, Divine Dragon. It's amazing, isn't it amazing, Cinnamon, to find people at what is our British lunchtime, so to speak. But I don't know where people are in the world, but thanks for that. I was going to say, because we're promising we're rolling into the last 12 minutes and we're trying to be tight because it might hit people's lunch hours and everything. Cinnamon, we're going to talk about the Maestro, aren't we? Because Jinkx Monsoon doesn't just come as the actor. They also have opinions, because everybody in Doctor Who now has to have opinions. And I showed you this article, and I could show you many articles, of course. But you've got, and I'll just go bigger for a second. Yeah, so I'll just bring this in. So basically, Doctor Who actor Jinkx Monsoon rejects critics of series' new queer direction. If they don't watch it, then who needs them? I'll just show a few quick slides so everybody can join in the thread as well. And it's funny because the article's in different direction, because it says that we get the usual tired anti-fan refrain, which in my saloon show just yesterday, I was talking about how RTD, Shooty Gatwa, Jodie Whittaker, they all have the same language slagging us off if we open our mouth. There's a lot of toxicity around the gender and the trans conversation. Oh, you bet. We've overcome things before. And then she says, to the people who are upset about it, boo-hoo, cry your effing tears. Do you know what? This is so confrontational and offensive about issues that are not settled. I don't want to get into the politics, but this is about Doctor Who, for God's sake. I can't imagine Nicola Bryant having a rant at Doctor Who fans. I can't imagine Katie Manning. I mean, honestly, why have we suddenly got this breed of people in Doctor who don't just say, well, look, don't criticize the actors. It's a bit, disrespectful. I mean, I'm happy with that sort of thing. But cry your effing tears out. Is Jinkx Monsoon a Doctor Who fan? I don't think they'd even blooming heard of it. And now suddenly they're telling us to clear off. I mean, Cinnamon, does this get you? Are you in Generation Z? Are you more tolerant to this?
No, absolutely not. If not worse. Again, from this point on the stream, I'm going to find it very hard to disagree with you. This is I cannot stand Jinkx Monsoon. I can't even believe after I watched that episode that I even for a slither of a moment even began to think that maybe she didn't grate on me as much as I think she did. Now in the episode, she's just about. Well, actually, even then, I'm still making. I still want to like this person. I'm still giving this person every chance. But yeah, she throws it back in my face every single time. This is nothing but vile, such aggressive, toxic behavior. And again, the absolute cheek of this person. I'm trying to be very careful with my language here. I don't want to get your channel into trouble. But the absolute gall of this person. Again, you probably didn't even know what Doctor Who was 5 minutes ago, or probably maybe heard of it but didn't really watch it. Or you know, again, there's so many shows like that. Again, I know of Bridgerton, but I've never watched it. I mean, you know, and you've been on the show for 5. You've been in one episode. You've been on the show for the best part of 5 minutes, and you're coming out with this claptrap. Oh, Doctor's always been this way. Doctor's always been like this. Sci-fi has always been a cute word. You know, there's so many. I mean, really, don't make any bloody attempt to even back up your argument, will you? I mean, nonsense. I mean, again, has Doctor been? There's been a lot of representation in Doctor Who. Yeah, we've had gay producers, gay showrunners, gay actors. You know. We've had, first, Maurice Hussein was the first director of Asian descent.
Yes.
Verity Lambert was the first female. There's a lot there, and that's all fine. And again, this stuff like this is riddled with straw man arguments. Again, like the Metro article by that racist who pointed out that saying stuff like, "Oh, Doctor was," saying like apparently that we're saying Doctor was only for us. I mean. That's absolute. No one in their right mind is sat there saying Doctor Who is only for white straight men. That is the most asinine thing. I mean, there are genuine racists out there, and I saw them, and I have reported them. I saw one that made reference to Shooty, I guess some sort of joke, and reference to a monkey, and it was some American fan, but not because he's American, but again, somebody probably doesn't even understand the show. And I reported that, and I sent it to the group chat, and I think they did it too. Again. This notion that we're all put in one box is just silly because you shouldn't generalize anyone. I wouldn't even generalize anyone who was actually believing this stuff because, again, it's the belief that you must be conservative, and it's not just conservative. There's many people.
Well, what about Cinnamon? Well, what about Cinnamon? I know the politics. I hate the way it distracts us from Doctor Who. This is my irritation. I just to finish off this, and we'll get because the thread are telling us that some love the Maestro, some not. It's that classic one. So we're going to really dive down into that with the 8 minutes left. So basically, the shame is, all I'm saying is, please look at my saloon from yesterday's. It seems to be all these actors are saying a version of not let the door hit you on the way out. Clear off. If you don't like this version of Doctor Who, we're going to find new fans. You lot clear off. Some people have invested 61 years, bought the merchandise, read the books. What? It just seems too disrespectful for a franchise and RTD.
This shelf alone cost me more than £1,000. Probably more than she's ever spent on any piece of merchandise on Doctor Who. Some of the steelbooks, Doctor Who Series 1, steelbook, £150 on that. Series 2, over. Again, probably about the same. I've spent ridiculous money on this shelf alone. But I did it because I care about this.
Well,
what at least you're going to get?
This is what I mean. It's Shooty said he doesn't like the government doing divide and conquer on issues, and yet it seems that the actors are dividing and conquering fandom instead of just saying, "Oh, it's a shame you didn't like our character. I tried my best." There's a way you could have said it. Anyway, let's get back to the Doctor Who element of it. Did you think? I mean, for example, I just want to be honest and bring people in because the person who liked it was Plunker. I love the Maestro. It's the only thing I enjoyed in the episode. Very reminiscent of Ursula from The Little Mermaid. Yes, I think I said that in my review. I mean, and as I said I get your point. It's just I don't know if it fits Doctor Who. That's the thing. And as somebody else said, and see what you think, Cinnamon. we've had a lot of characters about all are similar. Archibald Lazarus. Are the villains becoming all very samey? I mean, even the Master in his last two, Missy was actually a bit toned down, but John Sims' Master, I much prefer the Jarek Jacoby one, and the Sasha Darwin Master were zany. And it just seems we have to have zany. And do you know what? I think I could act. If you just ask me to go OTT acting, I'm off to drama school because I think I might make something. Look at my eyes. Look at this. I think I can act with my eyes. So, do you know what? But what about subtlety? What about subtle menace? A quiet performance that scares you to death. You must have been scared, Cinnamon, by some of our villains in the past who actually, just by their look, you thought, whoa. Sutek didn't have a rant. Sutek never got out his chair. He just sat there. And
again, the stone sort of the look, you know, especially the shot, because when him and Captain Adley Brooke go in and find them, and like the lighting is very dark, and like he's just hovering over him with his hand on his head, very demonic and Satan, like, kind of pose, and then you just sort of see him slowly turn their heads towards them with those white contact lenses. That was terrifying, and they never spoke, which was a great choice, because there's a clip behind the scenes where one of them does actually speak. Well, it sounds a bit bad because it's not dubbed over with an alien voice, but it was so clever to not have them speak because it makes them far more scarier. And again, the statues, when Sally is talking to Lawrence or whatever his name was, and they're talking, and then the statue and screaming, again, no sound, no voice, but just physically imposing. And
I used to say to the kids at school, because, you know, as a head of year, I was trying to help with their psychology. And I said, one of the things that I personally find the most scary is silence. When you don't know what the person's thinking, but they're looking at you. I mean, I think that absolutely is freaky. And so
that's why that film works so well. Was that A Quiet Place? There's a film, I didn't watch it, but there's a horror film out there where they have to be quiet or something. It's fairly recent. And I think that explored that idea of having to be quiet. For this monster will sound or something.
I mean, the first minute of Devil's Chord, I almost bought into because it was dark. The man being tortured by the musical chords. You know, I mean, you thought, oh, at last, some blooming Doctor Who. But then it, as you know, I personally think it went a bit. But I found that the Maestro was another example of RTD can't do subtle. RTD has to go massive. And I dare say Jinkx Monsoon, I'm not having a slight at Jinkx Monsoon in a way, really, although I don't like them being shouting at us. But Jinkx Monsoon is, I think on Unleashed it said they were pleased with her performance. And you can go as big as you want.
They're going to love everything. I mean, again, I say she. I mean, they make a big point of they, you know, but then for the rest of the episode, I think she's referred as she. And even in that scene where they said they or them, it almost like if you watch it from a certain way, I actually thought Russell was taking the piss out of it a little bit because the bloke's getting confused. She's then sort of saying, well, no, them. And then she gives up and it's like, well, it seems like you're ridiculing it actually there, Russell. So like, what are you trying to make? But again,
would you
know...
Can you see, because we're keeping on the time frame here, on the Maestro, was there any element that you thought, no, that's Doctor Who, I could live with that? Is there an element? Because I thought it was high camp and I struggled. The only bit I thought could have worked is if it had toned the performance down, but those musical chords slicing you to pieces was a good bit. However, it was high camp. Would you have the Maestro come back?
Probably not. No, just no. I'm sorry, but just for what this individual stands for, not even just what she believes in, but just how she this person comes across. This person is incredibly toxic. I've never known anyone to be on the show be so aggressive and vile towards fans. I mean, it's ridiculous because Jinkx makes the point. Jinkx, Heifer, whatever the bloody name is going by now, makes the point of, for every fan we lose, we'll get a new drag fan or a new fan that's coming in because of drag. Well, then you're not a fan, then, are you? If you're coming to the show watching it because, oh, well, there's a drag queen in there, and I'm a drag queen as well, and you know I've never seen Doctor Who before, but I'm going to watch it because this person's in it. I mean, okay, good that you're watching Doctor Who. That's nice, But if you only watch it because this person's in it, or if you're only watching a TV show because a gay person's in it, or because an autistic person's in it, then I have to question your validity as a fan. Is your thinking in the right place? Are you watching this because you're generally engrossed in the seeds of death? Does this person even know what the seeds of death is? Does this person know who Scorby is? Does this person know who even Susan is? I mean, again, and then they all come out and say in these interviews, "Oh, I'm a Doctor Who fan." They always say, "Oh, I'm a Doctor Who fan." Every actor says, "I'm a Doctor Who fan." It's like, oh, tick. Oh, I better say that because that'll get me brownie points. It's ridiculous.
Well, we have argued, we have debated, and we have also agreed on parts. But that's what fandom should be. I have to say, fandom shouldn't be cancellation, blocking, and all that nonsense. It's immature.
Yeah, shut up.
But do send us any questions that you think would really split the atom here and get us arguing with each other, because our friendship will be undiminished. Any final words on Boom? Are you looking forward to Boom as a Generation Zer? Is this up your street? Or in my case, I'm thinking it's going to be Harry Sullivan Part 2.
Yeah, this ties into my point earlier. You know, we've had the silly episode, not two really, two very silly, especially. I'm moving on. Get her off the screen. But yeah, but we were talking about high stakes, and we were talking about, you know, we need Shoot, and you were saying how we like Shooty when he's actually a little bit serious and he's actually a bit calm. And I think this will be it, because this is the episode. I absolutely adore the premise that he's going to be stood on a landmine for the entire episode. This screams to me of the great Moffat that we've got when he was writing for Russell previously. He's always had these wacky ideas. Again, this reminds me of, I mean, it's not like Blink. It's not like Blink at all. But the idea of like, oh, yeah, he's stuck in the past and he needs some complete random to save the day. I mean, that's a great idea. Some complete random character we've never ever seen before is the protagonist of this episode, of this show. And it works so well. And I can't believe we've never explored an idea like this really to this extent. Because they're saying that this episode is going to take place in just in one spot. I've never watched Dunkirk or whatever that film is, but they're saying that's all in one shot or something like that. I believe.
Oh, yeah.
I know I hate my history. I should be good at history, but that film, whatever it was called, had Cillian Murphy in it. But yeah, the idea of that the Doctor's just stood in one place, and he's having to rely on Ruby because she's holding a gun. I mean, I know. Funny that, Russell. You know, you don't like guns, but you've got Ruby holding a gun. My big deadly weapon. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that because that's bring out the tension, and Shooty himself has even described this as like a breaking point. So this is the episode that he really needs.
Yes, it's a shame it wasn't earlier. I agree with you. While we're agreeing, we can't do any show where we agree. But I know I agree that I like it when Shooty is slowed down. I think it gives him a chance, and I think it's about time. But before all that lot, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Brandon, my friend, you can find him on his own channel. Please go there and subscribe. You might be watching on his channel. We're simulcasting this. Friends do look out for each other, I have to say. And the other thing is, yes, fans, we're across the divide. We can all argue on Twitter and all various things, but the point is we should always still, like in a pub, have another pint and just get on with the night, because there's more that divide. I was going to say the wrong thing. There's more that unites us than divides us in fandom. Come on, we all
more that divides us than unites us.
So, I tell you what, I didn't think our thread would be this lively because it's our first show at midday on a Wednesday as the Bigenerates. What an awful name that is. But anyway, so Cinnamon Toast Crunch, thanks for obviously joining your own show. How am I saying that? But we'll do it again, of course, and we'll be reviewing the Boom and all the ramifications from that, and we're going to try and argue the toss. Send us questions, though, please. You'll find us on Twitter at SenseTheSphere. You your channel? Go on, explain it, Brandon.
Yeah, same name, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. If you can put up with my Gen Z-ness, I know it's so insufferable. But if you want to hear more from me at all, then of course you can subscribe to my channel or follow me on Twitter under the same name. So, thank you very much. This is great. Again, for this time as well, we've had a lot of people watching, a lot of people engaging.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for turning up at this time. I know it's a bit of an inconvenient for some, so well done you.
Well, I enjoyed the show. We're going to do it again because we're the Bigenerates. So everybody, goodbye, and please join us again